Today on the Honor Roll podcast, we're talking to an honor student whose interest in sustainability and design led him to found his own student organization at the Judy Genshaft Honors College. Coming up next. Hey Honors Bulls! Welcome to the Honor Roll podcast, the flagship podcast of the Judy Genshaft Honors College podcast network. I'm Caroline Merriman, a third-year honor student studying English and biology at the University of South Florida and a member of the Honors College. Today, my co-host is Fabiana Requena, a second year studying marketing and business analytics here at USF. Fabiana, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, it's really good to be back on the podcast. How are you?
I'm great, and we're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
So to kick off the episode, my question this week is, what is your favorite organization that you have been involved with at USF?
So I would say my favorite organization on campus has been AMA, American Marketing Association, because it is a super great way to get involved and have hands-on experience and just great things to add to your resume and make great friends.
Yeah, I think it's great that USF has a lot of organizations that are interdisciplinary in regards to the majors of students that are involved, but also with you can get involved in the community, you can do service, you can meet faculty members and things like that. So on the topic of opportunities at the Honors College, today we're going to be talking with Kobe Phillips, who is an honor student who has really maximized his time in the Honors College and made the most of his experiences here. So we'll be talking all about his journey and all of his initiatives and projects. All of that coming up next.
Hi, I'm Lacey Pinnell. I am a fifth-year senior, and I'm an industrial engineering student. So my favorite honors experience has really been my Puerto Rico trip. It was a service trip through the Honors College. So we essentially went out to El Yunque, and we cleaned up some trails and made it easier for tourists to actually explore on the rocks. And we also went to a coffee bean farm that was family-owned, and we were able to kind of clear up the vines and ensure that those coffee beans could survive, and the family was very lovely. And then finally, right before we left, we cleaned up a beach, and we cleaned up a lot of trash and just made sure that the locals were able to experience the beach without all of the effects of tourism that were happening. So that was a really good experience in my opinion. Go Bulls!
All right, today I am here with honor student Kobe Phillips. He is a senior in the Honors College, studying ecology and evolutionary biology. We are so excited to have you here today to talk about the 3D Hab Lab. Welcome to our podcast, Kobe.
Thank you so much. It's honestly such a great pleasure to be here. I'm excited to be a part of this.
Well, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience, maybe give a fun fact about yourself?
Yes, so as we've said, I'm a senior studying ecology and evolutionary biology, and I'm graduating in the spring of 2024. I've spent most of my time all at USF, but I've had some amazing opportunities. I'm a USF 2024 Marshall finalist for the UK and US relations. I'm also a UN Millennium Fellow. I've had so many great opportunities, such as through the Honors College being the first ever undergraduate student at the university to create, design, and implement their own course, which I called Rooted in Place. It's part of the honors curriculum. I've also created a community garden called the JGHC Community Garden. And doing all these things, I've had opportunities to work on environmental and ecology-based research at Cornell University, design studies at the University of Berkeley in California, as well as being the president and team captain of the rowing team here at USF, which has just been a great pleasure. I've just kind of spent so much time meeting great students, learning a lot from both my peers and faculty members, and I'm really happy that I've been able to be kind of an inspiration to a lot of other people as well.
Yeah, it's really, really impressive to hear that you've done such an immense amount of things and such a diverse array of things while you've been here at USF, and that you've been able to funnel your passion for sustainability into active involvement and action. That's really inspiring to hear as a fellow student. So on the lines of sustainability, you founded the Hab Lab in the fall of 2023 with honors professor Tina Parachi. Could you give us an overview of what the 3D Hab Lab is and what the organization does?
Yeah, so the 3D Hab Lab is a design build a student organization that looks to build animal architecture or habitats, what we call them in ecology, in very unconventional ways. So normally when we think about creating a habitat, we think, oh, we're going to plant a tree outside. But I have learned through my studies that actually some of those trees and some of those organisms don't actually live in those places where we expect them to live. You'll find them perching on the roofs of actually man-made buildings. You'll find them in the target circle and in the dot, or actually on the Judy Genshaft Honors College, the brand new building, there's so many small ledges where birds will like to perch. And so it gave me the idea to kind of continue my study in a very applicable way, which was, can we use fabrication techniques to create habitats in this new built environment that humans dominate? And so that's kind of what the Hab Lab became. It was, can we build habitats using 3D printing and laser cutting? And I wanted to take those techniques and not only teach students, but show students that there is a different way that we can approach problems, that you don't just have to be an ecologist to solve problems in sustainability or ecology. And you, even if you're an engineer, you can apply that to a different field. But if you're also a poet, like, we need ways to describe and we need ways to engage the public in unique ways. And so that 3D Hab Lab is the combination of both the ecology, the sustainability, the design, the poetry, all of that together.
Yeah, and I think the representation of students from like really diverse backgrounds and educational standpoints is really important in just showing us how interdisciplinary everything is, and just as the Honors College is itself, and that it's going to take all of us to make impactful action happen.
Absolutely.
Was there like a specific moment that, like, you know, a light bulb moment that inspired you, like, oh, this is something I need to do, this is a need that needs to be met in our, you know, USF community?
Yeah, I would say that it actually happened in an honors class. In spring of 2023, I was taking Professor Parachi's class called Art in Motion. And in that class, we had the opportunity to code origami pieces and learn how we could use fabrication techniques like 3D printing and laser cutting to make art. And coming from a very heavy STEM background, I had really never been exposed to stuff like that. And I remember my first actual exposure was before Professor Parachi became a professor at USF. I had known about her work because she does all this amazing stuff with coral reef architecture and designing art sculptures that could allow organisms to inhabit it. And I thought that was just absolutely amazing. So when I had the opportunity to work under her in this class, I wanted to kind of challenge myself to think differently about ecology. And so I think that's kind of how I started learning about how I could use different design techniques to apply it to ecology. And I ended up developing a moving origami sculpture called Blooming Honeycombs that was applied in the USF Center Gallery. And that was really cool because that was my first ever art installation. But the second thing was I created a pollinator prototype, which is helping me kind of pioneer this new field called habitecture. And that's what the 3D Hab Lab is built on. But it's the idea of animal architecture or things that animals can live in. And so this pollinator prototype was for butterflies, and I used it as my final project in the honors class. And that end of that project ended up being something that kind of transferred into the 3D Hab Lab.
Mm-hmm. So as you kind of started the organization up and you're trying to build it from the ground up, were there any unexpected challenges in trying to create your own organization and troubleshooting how that's going to work and trying to engage students at the same time?
Yes, of course. I think with anything that's new or different, there's always going to be that problem of troubleshooting in the beginning. I think the biggest challenge for most new organizations is just finding ways to engage people and finding ways that allow people to have like an inherent passion for it, even if it's not the same passion that I have for it in that example. But I think what makes this organization so successful so fast was my previous experience in working with the Judy Genshaft Honors College Community Garden and getting students to kind of fall in love with like the garden itself and how students actually found this class that I taught to be the epitome of their day and like the most enjoyable part of that semester. And I think I learned so much about community building and how to prototype things fast and how to work around things not working out. And I think that kind of came together in the Hab Lab because I had this experience. But I think what also was great, and I really just have to give the best shout out, besides Professor Parachi, I had the most amazing e-board of students that just kind of worked with me to develop these new ideas, and they have been extraordinary. And these new students that have joined us are also just giving it their all, no matter if they know how to 3D print or laser cut. And I think that kind of like energy around just wanting to try things has made it really fun.
And I think like that passion, it's infectious. You don't even have to like subject matter wise like love what someone else is going after, but seeing their passion for it and seeing how you can like fit yourself in with that to not only just like be around your community of peers, but to also like make a positive change. I mean, it's hard to not want to like be a part of like what Hab Lab's doing.
Yeah.
So having seen like through teaching your course with the Honors College, like how students can be impacted and how like they can form this love for nature and for sustainability that they didn't have before, how does the Hab Lab specifically hope to impact honors students and the JGHC community as a whole?
That is a fantastic question. I would say that I want to do things very uniquely. And I think it's kind of, I want to break the idea of what we know about maybe like a student org or the way that we do things. And I think if I have a legacy to leave for the Honors College, it is Kobe is scrappy and unconventional, and he is able to create things that are really fun and unique. And so the Hab Lab, the best example that I can give about this is kind of like a metaphor, is when we think about a birdhouse, the first thing that we imagine is as a house with 4 walls and a nice little slanted roof. But when I think about a birdhouse, I think, can we make this a rock climbing wall? Or can we make this like an art sculpture that appears differently? Can we make it move? And I think that unique abstract thinking, which is more towards the design thinking and architecture, is something that is going to take this Hab Lab so much further. And I would like to say that a lot of these ideas and thinking differently comes in a lot of what we do in the Honors College for honors courses, is we take an idea and we learn to think about it so many different ways and not just think of what everybody would normally think of, the basic blueprint. We're going to shape it differently. We're going to think about it differently.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So with innovation kind of living at Hab Lab's core of what the organization is doing, the organization takes on different projects kind of like semester to semester. So last semester you built bat boxes, correctly?
Yes.
So this semester you guys are doing birdhouses or bird sculptures that are going to be kind of integrated into the campus. So how do you guys go about like deciding what projects to pursue, like maybe what's feasible and like what is the biggest need and what should you be addressing?
So I think it definitely starts with understanding the area. And also who your community partners are. So the biggest community partners we have on campus are definitely groups like the Judy Genshaft Honors College and the USF Botanical Gardens. And so the first thing that we kind of do is look at the campus and the community, and we identify highlight points. So at the beginning of this conversation, I talked about how the birds were kind of hanging out on the buildings and not on the trees. So that kind of allowed us to think, well, can we design something that's more suited for the birds so that they don't run into the problems of the built structures, such as the JGHC new building, where it has like a lot of like inconvenient spaces for birds that may not be the best place for them. So kind of thinking about that and analyzing your environment, then we move on to the actual prototyping, creative design phase where we're like, okay, well, we want to build a birdhouse. So what kind of can we do that's a sculpture that's not just a birdhouse? And that is really fun because we can look at examples of other projects, such as when we were doing like pollinator reefs. We looked at Andrew Woodard's work and sculptures on 3D printing and laser cutting. And kind of it allows you to incorporate all the art ideas into something. And then the next phase from that is what we actually just finished this semester was the initial prototyping. And so that's kind of like using scrap pieces of paper and cardboard and seeing if you can actually create a physical prototype that allows you to see how it would look in a space. And I think this is where students really start to understand and engage with the project because they can see that, one, it's not impossible, that all these ideas that we had aren't just speculative. Like, we can do them if we work together on them. And then the next phase starts to go more towards 3D modeling and rendering, and then we produce a final prototype and install. And so hopefully, as we go towards the future, I would really like this to be like a semester project, each semester connecting with a community, whether that's on campus or off campus, that can really use these structures so that we can engage habitecture in the 3D Hab Lab in a way that's really different than what normal student organizations are doing.
Your final year in the Honors College can be so busy, but don't forget to apply for Honors Graduation. Open to honors students from all 3 campuses, the graduation celebration will be taking place throughout the day on Thursday, May 2nd in the atrium of the Judy Genshaft Honors College building on the Tampa campus. Ceremony times are first come, first served, so you'll want to complete your graduation survey early. Make sure to check your USF email and the honor roll to stay updated on all graduation information. We can't wait to celebrate with you.
Yeah, and I think the approach to kind of take localized pieces of the campus or like localized buildings and areas and start there and like bites, not necessarily bite size, but like, more digestible pieces of campus where it's like we can focus in on this one, animal population, and we can make something really beautiful out of it, that it's not just, we're, working to be sustainable, but we're also working to make art and to like beautify our campus and to do something that's not just like beneficial for ourselves, but like beneficial for fellow students as well. I think that's unifying.
Yeah, I would even say that one of the largest challenges to projects like these are we tend to think so big scale. And so we get a lot of challenges like, how are you able to do this without completely transforming this area or completely changing what's already there? And this was actually a lot of what I did while I was working for my Marshall Scholarship. But when I went to the UK Commission about these ideas, I proposed this is the exciting part, is and when you have small projects, they start to add up and you can completely transform an area like USF through small projects alone. And I think the small projects also allow this flexibility of creativity, allows different people to be involved in them. And I think it allows you to see how small things can grow on local scales into bigger change.
Yeah, and speaking of smaller projects, you listed a very impressive array of different accomplishments and achievements and areas of involvement that you've been a part of across the campus. So you've initiated all these different projects, you've taught your own course at botanical gardens, you've participated in the Millennium Fellowship, you've done research. So how has the Honors College been a platform for pursuing all of these different areas of your passions?
I would say that the Honors College allowed me to be more creative and to not just stick to what my major was. I started in biomedical engineering, and contrary to what everybody believes, I actually changed my major 4 times. And I think if you're listening to this, I would say don't be afraid to change your major because it is really helpful. But I started working with the Office of National Scholars and the Honors College my freshman year. I was able to receive a Gilman Scholarship, and the reason why I received that Gilman Scholarship was because I did something that was different and unique, and it was actually that I thought my side hobby of really loving bees and being a beekeeper was something that we could explore, and so I got the Gilman Scholarship to study bees and traditional medicine in Morocco, as in botany. And from what that was, it was just it was crazy because I worked with them, I was successful with the scholarship, and then I was talking with honors professors while we were building the community garden. We were literally pulling weeds out of the remains of what once was. And then all of a sudden, like, they were like, oh, Kobe, like, you should talk to Dr. Basu at the Office of National Scholars. And from there, it's honestly history. I've been able to, like, do so much. I ended up changing my major to ecology to kind of continue that passion. The Honors College allowed me to think about, like, ecology differently. As I said, art in motion allowed me to kind of transform actually what we are taught in ecology to something that's more applied. I was able to then kind of like use all the things that I learned to go to Germany through the Judy Genshaft Honors College Germany Beyond the Classroom program. And while I was there, I like did a little self-study about like habitecture and things that were bioreceptive, or like how plants grow or organisms grow on a structure. And so I've done all these like self-study individual things through these opportunities at the Honors College. And I would definitely say that they have really helped facilitate those opportunities. And this isn't necessarily related to my degree, but I row for the university. And one of the things I got to do while I was on the Germany Study Abroad program was I rowed in Hamburg and in Bavaria at the oldest rowing places in the entire world outside of the UK. And I remember I went and I knew no German, and these people who barely knew English, they like accepted me in my very last day in Bavaria. Right before I came back home, I rowed with them. I had known them for 4 hours. My backdrop to my row was the Swiss Alps.
Wow.
And then
That's crazy.
I know, crazy. It was so much fun. And they gave me a Bavarian feast afterwards, and they rode the train line with me all the way back to my hostel. And I remember crying in my room because I was like, it's
I mean, it's cool. It's not just tragic.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful.
But I remember that it was because of the opportunity from the Honors College and like the community that I could build because I felt confident about myself to be able to have those opportunities in a completely new place. That kind of leaves me with this better global community and perspective. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Honors College does not just a really good job of like exposing us to really diverse opportunities just with all of our like areas of research and our amazing professors and things like that, but just like the culture of the Honors College and a lot of the content, the interdisciplinary content of a lot of our classes, I think it just like makes us think differently. And I think we're just more open and receptive to like the outside world.
Yeah.
And the possibility of like the connections that we can make in really unexpected places, because we see that happening all the time in like the work and the people that we meet here.
Yeah, I made a comment to a close friend of mine, Professor Hargrove, but all the honors faculty and professors are just very like funky and fresh people, and they have so many unique characteristics and backgrounds, and it's crazy to think that this is not a common thing at any other university. This is unique to us, and I think kind of growing up in this experience and having that environment is just as you said, like we are so prepared to kind of pioneer the world and the future because we got to grow up with these people that are doing it and pioneering and being funky and fun and all those things.
Yeah, and having that like even in regards to like your story that you shared of like you went to the ONS and then you went to Dr. Basu and you're being inspired by your professors, you had like a really, really strong support system and people that you could talk to not only for ideas, but like, okay, how do I get here? Okay, how do I make this happen? How do I funnel this passion into something new? How do you think other honors, like what advice would you have for other honor students who, you know, have a lot of passions they want to like, you know, pursue, and like how can they take advantage of the resources that the Honors College has to offer?
Yes, I would say, personally, I would start with a journal. I have been journaling for a while now, but it helps me keep a track record of all my ideas, and kind of having that organization is useful not only for yourself, but for other people who come to you for ideas. And then I would take that journal and I'd go to the Office of National Scholars. The Office of National Scholars, to plug them in a little bit, for those of you who don't know, is a campus organization for all students, no matter if you're honors college or not, and it helps you work towards scholarships that are national and international during your undergrad. So that could be research related, such as REUs. It could be public service related, such as the Phi Beta Kappa public service scholarship, but it could also be for postgraduate studies, like for grad school, the Fulbright, language learning scholarships. And these are great opportunities because they allow you to pursue things that you wouldn't normally get to do in your major. For example, as I said, I got a Gilman to go study bees in Morocco. And although it got canceled because of COVID, unfortunately, it was an opportunity that I would not have had at USF. Similarly, I've worked with ONS to have an RU, which is a completely paid for summer internship. And I went to Cornell University. I did entomology and ecology studies. And that's ultimately like my foundation for why I have really good ecology knowledge, was having a fully funded summer there, which was so much fun. The same thing happened when I went more into design studies. I went to UC Berkeley with the help of ONS, and I had those opportunities. And I think any student, like, go to ONS, enjoy that time. But then I would also say, if you have an idea and you're even not sure about it, just try something. Take one small step, and you'll learn that, like, either it works out and like you keep making those steps and it keeps progressing, and you come down like maybe a month later and you don't realize how far you've gone, and that's like super encouraging. And also there's times where like maybe it doesn't work out, but you learn something from it, and I think that's just like very ironic for me to say, because I feel like a lot of people are like, Kobe, you've done all these amazing things, all these things, and I was like, you have no idea how many things failed. So I hope that's encouraging too, that like it's not just all these great successes, it's also kind of like learning from the mistakes. So I would say anybody, just keep on trying.
Yeah, that's like the beauty of having a growth mindset, and like never telling yourself, oh, I can't do this, or I can't follow this path. Like never tell yourself no. Like there's always a way, and when you have the resources like we have here, like that's just that much more possible.
Yeah.
So looking back at this whole journey, from starting at USF and being a part of Hab Lab, doing RU, studying abroad, all of these wonderful experiences. Now you're a senior graduating this semester. So looking back on all of that, what's been your favorite honors memory?
There's so many. I don't even know. I maybe not one particular favorite, but I can list a couple good ones. I think when I first started the garden, and it was my first semester teaching it, I think that's the biggest memory, because I was so nervous that being the first ever student to ever do something like that I didn't want to let anybody down. I didn't want students to walk away feeling like this wasn't worth their time. And so at the end of the semester, hearing the feedback that the students had was so nice and so encouraging, and it made me realize that like I could be a teacher, and I could create a fun environment that we normally don't get sometimes out of like our normal college classes. And so I think to pair that, I would say my last semester of teaching, which was spring of 2023, the very last day, I remember just cheersing with everybody. We had our little potluck that the students had made with their leafy greens and ingredients from the garden. And I just remember just being so thankful for the opportunity to do something like that at the Honors College, and thankful that people believed in me enough to continue doing it. And so I think those would be top memories. But I think maybe like the third one would be I was selected as a boundless bull for the university, which means I had to present to the USF Board of Governors about all these great things that were happening. And I just remember after that having a conversation with Dr. Basu and Dean Adams and Dana Taylor, the marketing director, and just how kind they were and how many nice things they had to say, and just like how they had seen the journey from freshman to senior year about how I've grown up to be the person that I am. And I just think, as someone who sometimes still think of themselves as a growing up, like not quite an adult yet, I think that was really nice and something I hang on to.
Yeah, your journey here at the Honors College has definitely been inspiring for all of us who have gotten to like see the things you've done from start to finish, and like all of the wonderful things that have come to fruition from that, but also to have seen like the community that has gathered around you, not just like the community that you've built, but also the community that supported you from start to finish. I think that's just a really unique feature just of like the JGHC community as a whole. So before we wrap up, kind of tying back into the Hab Lab, because I'm sure after hearing this, students are going to be rushing to the next meeting, trying to figure out how to get involved. How should students go about becoming a part of the organization?
So students can go to Bulls Connect and join us there. And you can also go to our Instagram, which is 3dhablab_USF. And those will take you to kind of our group me and other places where you can stay in contact and informed. We have meetings every other week because we're a bi-weekly meeting schedule. So it allows you to stay flexible while also like meeting all your other responsibilities in college. So we have outside like in the Honors College activities, but then we also have opportunities like fundraisers and little socials that we have. And what's really nice about the 3D Hab Lab is we have such a great internal spirit. So I think if you are coming out, I'm excited for you to be a part of that.
Well, we are surely looking forward to everything that you're going to do in the future and to the legacy of the Hab Lab here at USF. And thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure hearing about your journey and how you've kind of put your passions into action here at USF. And that is all for this segment. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
All right, Caroline, that was an amazing episode. What did you think?
I think it was really great to get to hear a student perspective on the honors journey and kind of going from that unsure freshman year, not really knowing what you're going to do, to kind of like materializing your passions into really great projects that other students can also take part in.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that there's a lot of opportunities here at the Honors College and overall at USF. You just have to speak to the right people and you can make really great things happen. And speaking of opportunities, don't forget to check out the Honor Roll newsletter and our website at usf.edu/honors for all upcoming events, updates, and news.
That will do it for this week's episode. The Honor Roll podcast is recorded in the Judy Genshaft Honors College at the University of South Florida Tampa campus. Production assistance is provided by honors student Abby Malloy and Professor Adam Davidson. Thank you all so much for listening. Please do not forget to rate and review our podcast. We appreciate your feedback. Tune in next time for more honors stories.
Until next time, go Bulls!